the member for Indi.
Deputy Speaker, I'm very pleased to stand here in support of this matter of great public importance. And I would like to value add to the comments of the member for Adelaide. I'm not going to go over some of the things that you talked about, but in bringing my comments to the House, I want to be a little bit more philosophical. And if I could begin by addressing the comments of the member for Macpherson to say, Minister, I just so agree with your attribute about how important it is to have access to childcare if you're going to get access to work. And you're right, cost is a matter, quality is a matter, but most importantly, availability matters. So if you don't have available childcare, no amount of cost or quality is going to make it work. And today I'd like to address my comments to the process of public policy. As I said, I don't want to go over what the member for Adelaide has said because I think that stands. But for me, process of good policy involves three levels. We've got to have really good process at the beginning, at the upfront, in the design and how it works. We've got to have really good implementation processes, and we've got to have really effective processes to show us that our outcomes are being reached, that the policy is actually doing what you want it to do. So in that design process, it's really important to have good engagement and consultation. In the delivery mechanism, it's really important that you've got to have good consultation and engagement. And in the review and checking out how it's going against your outcomes, you've got to have good engagement and consultation. And I've got a special interest in this particular topic because for a number of years I was National President and I'm now a lifetime member of Australian Women in Agriculture. And while childcare is not necessarily a women's issue, I have to say in rural and regional Australia we pick up most of the work. So for a number of years before I was in this wonderful place, I took that role of lobbying for particular childcare very seriously. And as part of Australian Women in Agriculture, through the organisation NAMS and through SNAPE, have been part of working with government on a whole lot of issues to make sure that consultation and engagement around policy worked. And I just have to say that in this particular instance, really, the government is letting us all down. That some of those consultation mechanisms that we had, such as the National Rural Women's Advisory Council, the Regional Women's Access Council, they've all been done away with. So the government even doesn't have access now to the wisdom of us rural women. And consequently, we get the problem that's been outlined by the member for Adelaide. We've got a service delivery model that's not going to engage with rural and regional Australia. And you've particularly pointed out for the Aboriginal women, but it's all of us rural and regional women. And the sad thing is, exactly as the member for Macpherson has said, that childcare is a basic fundamental of productivity gains. And in agriculture, we estimate that in excess of $14 billion is contributed by women to agriculture. And without access to quality with access to quality childcare, it could be the single one thing that we did that would increase productivity in Australia almost beyond any other measure. And I would say to my members of the government, with access to quality childcare, we could increase productivity, just as a member for Macpherson has said, by enabling women to really reach their potential in the agricultural businesses. But it's not going to happen. And why? Because exactly as a member for Adelaide said, the changes to the model are actually going to say that rural and regional Australia needs to transition. Now, transition's fine, but in fact, in my communities, the smaller ones, there's nothing to transition to. There's no service. So there's been a basic philosophical problem with the design of this program, is that it just didn't look, well, if you haven't got a service, if you haven't got access, there's nothing to transition to. No amount of subsidy is going to make any difference if you haven't got a service. Now, I know there were problems with the budget BBF, and they needed to be resolved, but they didn't need to be done away with. So, in closing, what I'd really like to say is I've appreciated the work of the government, and the minister in particular, offering some of his public servant staff to come to Indi and to commit to actually do the work post the election, post the legislation going through, that actually will enable us to have a long-term, sustainable, equitable childcare service for rural and regional Australia, and I will hold him to account to that promise.
I call the